how's everybody feeling about this session? I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. I know I'm not supposed to look at my second screen, but in the chat, one thing you're trying to learn or you're hoping to get from this session today, it's not going to be a hands-on session. So if you're looking to learn how to build something, you're going to watch me build something, but you're not going to learn how to do it. We're not going to stop and let you all use Tableau at the same time. Somebody's calling in from Surrey. All right. So updating all your sheet swapping. Okay. So we will definitely talk about sheet swapping. Handy tips, how to use it with your colleagues, exposure, just more exposure. Right. So I think, yeah, it's one of those features that's, if you haven't used it much, it looks super cool when you see it done. And then you're like, well, I don't know. Is that really for me? Right. So we're going to talk through some of the challenges that you all have faced. So throughout the last week, I've posted on LinkedIn an email and asked you all to send me your challenges. And I've gone ahead and consolidated those into this presentation. We're going to look at some specific examples of how you can apply dynamic zone visibility. I'm going to show you how to do a couple of builds of some use cases. We're going to do one that's kind of like sheet swapping, because that seems to be the most popular one that people want to sort of replace that they're doing now. I'll show you a bunch of examples. And then at the end, we'll get into a bit more of a discussion about kind of next steps. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I guess it doesn't make sense to start a dynamic zone visibility webinar without actually explaining what dynamic zone visibility is. Does that sound about right to everybody? Doesn't make sense. What it is, it's basically a way for you to dynamically show or hide specific views, right? Hence the name, dynamic zone visibility, or just think about it as dynamic visibility. Ignore the word zone. You're able to hide and show things dynamically based on interactions or conditions that you make within a visualization. So what you see on the right-hand side, I know the image is cut off a bit, but this is a classic drill down, right? So when parameter actions and set actions first came out, these are the kind of things people were building, right? A 3-4 level drill down. Now this is actually done with dynamic zone visibility, because personally, I find it much easier to do this with dynamic zone visibility than a single map that I'm constantly trying to figure out how to show and hide map layers, right? That's much more complicated. And also how to pass filters to it and have a single sheet that filters from region to state to county to zip code, right? All of that is very complicated to do in one sheet, but it's significantly easier once you know how to use dynamic zone visibility. Now, why would you want to use dynamic zone visibility? Well, we've all seen dashboards with information overload. If in the chat or hands up, emoji reactions, whatever Eva said to do a reaction if you have seen at your work, or better yet, if you have created an overwhelming dashboard, right? Too much stuff on a dashboard. You're not sure what they want, so you just give them everything. Has anybody done that before? I don't see many hands going up. I see a couple. I would expect every hand to go up with this one. And I knew somebody would do the hand raise, Eva, instead of just the emoji reaction. So yeah, so it should be a lot of thumbs up coming here, right? It's very easy to create complicated dashboards that overwhelm our users. But then the problem with that is our users don't use them, right? We think they're great because we know how to use them. We design them. But our users don't know how to use them because they don't know where to start, right? So dynamic zone visibility helps us consolidate dashboards, make them more relevant to the task at hand, and only reveal information when it's needed. Okay, so same thing I said there, right? Reduces information overload, provides clarity and usability to what would typically be a very complex dashboard. Your dashboards can still be complex, right, as far as functionality and what they're doing. But when I'm talking about complexity here, I'm talking about complexity of the design and what the user actually sees, right? A lot of complicated visualizations, things squashed in together, those sorts of things. But it's a great opportunity to tailor to the user experience. It also allows you to focus on the most relevant data. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what I mean by that. But again, you can, so for example, let's say that you start with a KPI, right? And if it's a good number, they move on to the next dashboard. If it's a bad number, they click on it and it reveals some additional information, right? That's something dynamic zone visibility can do for you. And then maybe there's a problem in that, and you click on something in that one, it displays another chart, right? So you can kind of keep that snowball going and really help that analysis and prevent. So if you think about like a typical KPI dashboard, it's going to have, you know, a bunch of big numbers. It's going to have a bunch of charts, right? Everything is there. But what if you just had the numbers and that's it? And people only looked into the more detail if they actually needed to, right? So kind of keep that concept in your head. It'd be so much better of an experience for your users. So the idea ultimately is to go from something that's complex to something that's clear. So the visualization on the left is one of the, I think it was maybe the second visualization I posted on Tableau Public, and I went back to it last week when I was preparing for this webinar, and I decided, you know what, the whole point of this visualization on the left-hand side was to compare the stock price of Coke and Pepsi. So why don't I make it look like a stock ticker that people are used to seeing, right? Those little cards that if you go to Google or to Yahoo, wherever you look for your stocks, you can see those, you know, those kind of time series charts with numbers. You click on something, it pops up additional information. Now, one thing I did notice just now is that in the visualization in the back with the big numbers, I've got Pepsi on the left and Coke on the right. But when you display the details, I've got them flipped around, Coke on the left and Pepsi on the right. So don't do that. Just notice that there. So we all make mistakes. But, you know, I like building visualizations like this because I get to practice these techniques. And, you know, personally, I really love the way it looks. I think it looks great. And it's super actionable for people, right? They see a drop in the stock price. Well, what happened within that week, right? Something like that. And then I also asked you, like I did at the beginning of this, and if I missed any of your challenges, feel free to type them in the chat. What are your biggest challenges? I got a long list of things, and I didn't know that there could possibly be that many challenges, but I'm just going to go through kind of the highlights here. So first thing is just setup and configuration. People aren't sure exactly what to do. So we're going to go through that step by step. And then along with that is keeping the configuration from getting too messy. It's easy to get kind of lost in calculations. I did that on a workshop recently as well. I got stuck in the calculations and I couldn't get myself out of them. If any of you were on that workshop, raise your hand. You probably remember what I'm talking about. Yeah, I got really stuck, didn't I? But we figured it out in the end. But that's one of the things you have to be careful of. I made a mistake and didn't follow the repeatable process that I knew I could, right? I thought I had it all memorized in my head. Well, if you do it enough, it becomes that way, but you know, it's always good to have it written down as well. Also, not only the difficulty of setting it up, but is it really worth the benefit you gain, right? That's basically the trade-off. The complexity of setting it up versus the benefit you gain. Is it just useful versus flashy? A lot of you also, to learn this, have had to rely heavily on self-teaching. There's really hardly any resources out there for a technique like this. You might be able to download somebody's workbook, but that's basically about it, right? So that's one of the things I'm trying to help you with in this webinar as well. You often get confused when there's dashboards with lots of parameters in them. So dynamic zone visibility can help reduce that confusion by taking the parameters out of the dashboard. Sheet swapping, which we've talked about before, and then, you know, kind of how to unlock its full potential. So I'm going to take you through a couple of examples. You may have seen this one before. This is one of my favorite visualizations that I've created, and it is just a simple drill down for it's, you know, so anyway, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. How does dynamic zone visibility work? Well, basically you show or hide objects based on parameters, filters, actions, right? So you have to have a parameter, you have to have an action. And in this particular case, I'm also doing a filter. A filter is optional. But in this case, what you'll see is I'm drilling down, and if I switch screens, oops, sorry, if I switch screens here somewhere, there we go. So this is the live dashboard. So what I wanted to see with this particular visualization, I was visiting New York, and I wanted to understand, well, how can I make sure that I stay in a hotel that isn't near any pigeons, right? So in New York, people complain about pigeons. They track that data. Who knew, right? So let's say I don't really want to stay in Manhattan. I stay in there all the time. So I'm going to stay in Brooklyn. Now, this is one worksheet here, this map here. When I drill down into Brooklyn, it then goes down into each of the zip codes within Brooklyn, right? So this is now a separate sheet. So I've now used dynamic zone visibility to swap from the borough level down to the zip code level and also past a filter at the same time. And it's color coded by where the most pigeons are. So maybe I want to stay somewhere near the east side of Brooklyn. So I'll maybe just pick this zip code here. And now I've now passed that zip code as a filter to another drill down, right? And this is now, you see every pigeon on here that's been reported and every hotel that is near the pigeons. So for example, if I wanted to, let's say I want to stay at this hotel, I can see that there are, it looks like 4 pigeons have been reported within that area. But if I go here, okay, I'm in a pigeon safe zone. I have no pigeons within 250 meters. So maybe that's a hotel I want to stay at. So this is kind of like an analytical type of dashboard as well. I'm giving my user an experience to be able to drill down into where they want to stay. Airbnb could probably do with something like this, right? Let's say, Airbnb, you have maybe a heat map by prices that you can then drill in and something like that. It would make it much easier for people to use. So if you're from Airbnb, listen up. All right. And so how does it work? We need 5 things for dynamic zone visibility to work perfectly every single time. The first thing is a parameter. That's what dynamic zone visibility interacts with. A calculation that works with that parameter. You need charts or objects in your dashboard that you're going to show or hide. Those are the things you're going to apply the dynamic zone visibility to. You typically will have containers. You don't have to have containers, but typically you have containers. And then you need a parameter action to tell Tableau, when you click on this thing, update this parameter, and then show or hide this particular sheet. So this is an example of chart swapping, and I'm sure some of you have done chart swapping before. This one is done with dynamic zone visibility. So in the past, you may have used a single container and you put all of these sheets into one container. You hid the titles, but you got those extra couple pixels of padding. Have any of you built something like that before? And by the time you get to the 6th sheet, you've got like 15 pixels of padding on the left and it looks stupid. You can't show your titles. So now you have to figure out how to show a title. But then the chart type changes, right? So here I'm going between lots of different charts, a line, a bar, a scatter plot, a map, a heat map, and then the skull and crossbones is our table, right? So we don't want to use that. But with dynamic zone visibility, it's significantly easier. I just create the 6 charts. I create my little buttons, right? So I have a chart type parameter. I have a calculation for the chart type that's selected. So based on the button, it passes a word to it. I've got the 6 charts. I've got one container that those charts are in, and then one parameter action. The parameter action updates based on the button I click, and then based on the button I click, it shows the appropriate chart. So that's kind of the basics of chart swapping there.
Andy, let me quickly jump in. There's a couple of questions from the chat. Let me go to Ashana's question first. Is dynamic zone visibility used mostly to drill down to the lowest level of granularity? If yes, are there any limitations on how many levels down we can show?
So you say, is it typically used that way?
Is it mostly used for drill down to the lowest level?
Well, I mean, mostly I don't know. Because I don't know all of the use cases. I've seen tons and tons of different examples where I would say it's pretty common. Yes, I would say the drill down is pretty common, but only if you need to do sheet swapping as well. So if it's just a regular drill down and it's a bar chart, you probably would just use one sheet. You wouldn't need to use dynamic zone visibility. So it depends on the type of drill down you're trying to do. And what was the second part of the question?
If there's any limitations on how many levels you can drill down, I guess.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Christina Pettengale asked, can you do dynamic zone visibility style sheet swapping with more than 2 values? So she thought it was limited to true and false.
There is a way to do it because you can pass multiple values to a parameter. Did anybody know that you can actually do that?
Yeah, some people probably have heard you talk about it recently.
People in Next-Level Tableau better all be shaking their heads because we've done this exercise recently, right? So everything you've read says no, that's right. You can only have one value in a parameter, but you can trick a parameter to look like it has multiple values in it. We are absolutely not getting into that in this session. So I think that's what you mean, Christina. You could pass the names of the you could pass multiple names to that parameter. It would get pretty messy pretty quickly, I think, and the logic would be more complicated than just the simple process that I'm outlining here. But rarely in Tableau do I say something is impossible. Okay, anything else, Eva?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, going back to kind of why we want to use dynamic zone visibility, doing a bit of a recap here. We're trying to make complex dashboards easier to navigate. We want to guide the user through the relevant data, right? So I did that map drill down. The data became more and more relevant as I drilled down. And it creates a really fun, unique, interactive experience, which will increase engagement. Ultimately, our goal is to go from something that's complex. This is from the Washington, D.C. metro station, to something that's much clearer and easier to understand. That should be our goal with all dashboards that we're building. All right, so let's look at an example here. I'm going to actually build this one, and fingers crossed. I rehearsed it, I promise, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get it right. So does everybody forgive me if I screw up? Is everybody okay with that? Okay, great. So what we're going to do here, this is just going to be kind of like a sheet swapping. But what we're doing here is, depending on the metric you pick, you're not only changing the charts, but you're changing the chart type as well. Okay, so in the past, if I were going to just swap out metrics and it's only one chart type, I might try to make it work with a single chart. However, when you're mixing metrics or number formats like percentages and like here profit and discount, one of them's a percentage, one is a number. It becomes much more complicated. So dynamic zone visibility is a huge help here. So first thing we need to do is build all of the sheets, which I've done, right? So we have a a sales by month, a profit by month, sales and profit by subcategory, and then we have an average discount by state, okay? And then we also created a sheet with some buttons on it, which are the things that they're going to click. So so what we're going to do next is we're going to just go ahead and build the dashboard. So in the chat, if you could wish me luck, that would be wonderful. And now I can't find my mouse. So did my mouse just die on me? Wouldn't that be special? I think it did. So give me 1 second. Maybe I should get a new mouse. This happens like every 2 weeks.
I'll write it on the Christmas list. In the meantime, I think somebody commented recently that you are using the trackpad on your laptop to do Tableau stuff, and people are like, oh my God, how can you do that without an external mouse?
Well, I am using an external mouse, but it is a trackpad mouse.
Yeah.
You know how I do it? I use Tableau every day. That's how I do it. There you go. Does that answer the question? These batteries can't be dead. I think the mouse is actually dying. Is James on here? James, to tell us, does he have a good joke for us while I'm doing this? Or should I not subject everybody to James's jokes?
I think we're good on the joke side, but a lot of people have been commenting on good luck. So people are listening and awaiting with bated breath.
This is going to be one of those sessions where I think I'm going to have to use the trackpad. So since they asked, Eva, yeah, I'm gonna have to use it. Sorry, I'm gonna try one more time here. I don't know why it does this. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. So I'm gonna my laptop is to the side, so I'm gonna have to look left, use my right hand over on the screen. So this has a really good chance of getting messed up. Okay, and I've got the keyboard over here. So is this the right?
We're seeing.
Yeah,
we saw the heat map.
There we go. Can you see the charts now?
Yes, line chart, monthly sales.
Okay, great. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just build our dashboard. I'm going to keep it quite simple. I'm not going to worry about getting my containers right and everything. It's very painful for me not to do the containers right as I build it. But so I'm just going to drop in a container and bring my buttons in. And then let's see, I'll put my sales sheet in there, my map. And then I'm going to add another container that's going to hold my 2 profit sheets. So profit by month and sales and profit by that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I need to probably make this one a bit bigger. Okay, something like that. So let me go ahead and hide the title. Okay, so, and I'll get rid of this box here as well. So the first thing I would do is I would, sorry, I skipped a bit ahead here. On my buttons, I need to go ahead and create a parameter to capture the button that I click on. Okay, so this is just done with measure names. You see I've got measure names here. So I'm just using a shape. So I need to create a parameter, and I'm going to call this my measure parameter. And I'm trying to use my mouse. So the data type is going to be a string, and I'll just start with the value of sales. Okay. And I'm going to show that parameter because I like to test it while I'm in the sheet before I do it as a dashboard action. So up on the worksheet, I'm going to do worksheet actions. And let me remove that. That was my test. So I'm going to change the parameter. I'll call it update measure. And my target is my parameter, and I'm going to pass measure names. This is one thing I love about parameter actions is you can pass measure names to it. And I'm going to keep the value there. Okay. So I'll give it a test, and I can see my parameters working. Good to go. Okay. So that's great. So now what I need to do is I need to create 3 calculations, one for sales, one for profit, and one for discount, to let me know whether or no I want to let me know what to show or hide. Okay. So I'm going to create my first calculation, which is on the other screen, of course. I'm going to call this one show sales. And I'm going to say my measure parameter is equal to sales. Okay. And let me create another one. We'll call this one show profit. Oop. I know I could let that go, but. And this is my measure parameter equals profit. And then one more. Show discount. And this one will be measure parameter equals discount. Okay, that's it. I don't need to put these in sheets. I don't need to do anything with them, right? I just need the calculation. So over on my dashboard, what I want to do is first, I'm going to change my action from a worksheet action to a dashboard action. So I'll go up to dashboard actions, and I'll see my worksheet action here. So I'm just going to edit that and switch it to a parameter action. Or sorry, switch it to a dashboard action. Let me get rid of the other sheets. Everything else looks okay. All right, so now as I click these, nothing's going to happen, right? Because I haven't told Tableau what to show or hide yet. So I'm going to click on this sales sheet, and in the layout tab, I'm going to choose control visibility using, and I'm going to choose the show sales option because I only want it to show when I click on sales. Okay, so that disappeared because I think profit was the last thing I clicked on. I go down here to the discount sheet, so show discount. But then on this one, I'm not going to hide a sheet. I'm going to hide the container. So on that container, I'm going to show visibility based on profit. Okay, so now I give it a test. I've got discount, profit, sales, profit, discount. Perfect. Everything worked great. All right. Any questions on that as I move on to the next slide? Anything, Eva, in the chat?
No, all good.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so so we create a parameter. Oh, nice screenshot here. We show the calculation, or we create those 3 calculations, create our parameter action, give it a test, and then at the end, make sure you clean up your tooltips and do all of that. Okay, and I will make sure that you get this workbook as well. I'll send you the workbook, I'll send you the slides, and you'll also get the video. So some additional use cases that you can think about for your next dashboard. So this is one that we did in a previous workshop. So this is like a completely customizable dashboard. So I'm going to flip over to this one here. And this kind of combines show hide buttons with dynamic zone visibility. So I've got my little hamburger here that's going to hide my KPIs on the side. But then this button changes everything that's on the right-hand side. So if I choose show locations, it switches to my locations visualizations, and I click on Midwest, and it now shows the map, right? And now I can do a drill down as well. So you see I'm combining lots of different techniques with just this one, with dynamic zone visibility. So it gives me tons and tons of flexibility. And then another user customizable analysis, right? So I believe this one requires three sheets. No, more than that. So I've got 3 metrics. I can allow my users to scroll through different metrics, and based on those metrics, it decides which chart to show. And then I can change my color preferences. You know, so if you have an audience and they're all complaining and that they don't like the color, maybe give them several options. You can swap out the level of granularity of your date series and all that. So this is all done with dynamic zone visibility. So really customizable user experience. We already looked at the map layer, so I won't bother going through that one again. And then this is a really, really useful one as well. So I think this goes back to the question, Eva, earlier about showing underlying data. Or no, I think the question was drilling down. I think that was the question, was drilling down. So another use case that I really like is when you're trying to show additional details. So for example, I click on this tickets, and now it shows basically another dashboard inside of my dashboard. Okay, super, super cool. And that's all done with dynamic zone visibility. But I'm going to actually take you through a use case. So let's say that, this would probably never happen to you all, but let's say that you're on the profit sheet and somebody says, you know what, I want all of the data. Have any of your users ever said that? I want all of the data, show me a table, right? So with dynamic zone visibility, you can just click on, let's say that I want to create a visualization that is, I'm going to give them a table. It's going to have the product name. It's going to, basic table, right? Nothing fancy. But what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to click on one of these, and it pops up a table for them to look at, right? So we're kind of giving them that additional information, but only when they need it, right? So we're giving them that good user experience. So the first thing I'm going to need to do here is I'm going to need to create a parameter that's going to capture the subcategory that I click on. So I'll just call this subcategory parameter. We're going to make it a string, and we'll start by just putting tables in there. Okay, and I'm going to show the parameter. And again, the first thing I do is test it. So I'm going to worksheet actions. I'm going to add a parameter action. I'll just call it parameter 1 for simplicity. I'm going to update that with the subcategory field. But this time, when they deselect, I want to set it to nothing. I want it to be empty because I want that sheet to disappear. Okay, so it's not going to have any kind of subcategory in it. Now I'm going to have a calculated field that is I'm going to call this my show table. And I'm going to say I'm going to say my what is my, see, this is let's see, SC parameter does not equal blank. Okay, so that's what we're going to use to control the showing or hiding. But we also want to be able to filter at the same time. So I'm going to create another calculated field, and let's call this one filter subcategory. And for here, I'm going to have my subcategory parameter is equal to the subcategory they click on. Okay, but I'm going to add that as a filter on my table sheet. Okay, so true, and now it should just filter down to tables because that's what I picked before. Right, so back here in the dashboard, what I need to do is, and I'm just going to float this up in the middle of the sheet. So I'm going to just float my little table in here. Maybe I'll do it something like that. I'll make everything fit the entire view just so it looks really terrible so they never use the table again. I'm going to go to layout and set my background. Maybe give it a nice thick border, right? Just to make it stand out a bit. Okay, and let's hide the title. Okay, actually, I won't be that mean to them. I'll just make it fit width. Okay, so now I need to switch my action from a worksheet action to a dashboard action. So let's go actions. Let's edit this, and I just need to swap it out to be a dashboard action. And this one is driven by my sales and profit by subcategory. Okay, so that's good. Right, so now if I click on a subcategory over here, you'll see everything updates. And then if I click something here, it all disappears, right? So the filtering is working, but we need to set up the dynamic zone visibility. So I've got this sheet selected, control visibility using, and then show table. So now that's going to disappear, right? So let me go into presentation mode. Clear chairs. It now shows me all the orders for chairs. They can scroll through, click something there, it goes away. Tables, click off, etc. Right? So that's a good way to kind of reveal underlying data without making your dashboard messy. Okay. I'm doing
Andy.
a lot of talking here. Yes.
Yes. Take a breath, take a sip. There's a couple of questions that have popped up. First, I actually need to scroll up because Charles Hull, I don't know if your question has been answered since. So how does hiding the chart on the dashboard differ from hiding them in each individual page?
Yeah, so like utilizing a Andy, when you set the parameter equal to a specific value, how does putting that in the worksheet and setting that to true to hide based off the parameter selection, how does that differ, if at all, from hiding it the way you did within the dashboard page?
I think I need you to say that to me one more time. So you're talking about this example here, or the one before this?
Yeah, I mean, the one before that, where you made the charts appear or disappear, yes, based off that, and you created measures that said the parameter is equal to profit or the parameter is equal to sales.
Okay. Yeah.
So you hid the charts within the dashboard, but would it not do the same thing within the individual worksheet to just set that measure to true so that it disappears in that way?
So you're saying kind of create a filter instead, right? So so the measure equals the only let's see. So yeah, I think it would probably work in this case. It would probably work. So for those of you that don't quite understand what he's saying, if I go to this sheet and I put let's see, this is show discount, and I choose true for show discount, then if I click off of that, right? So now, okay, well, I need to, anyway, I think that's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I think in this case, it would probably work. But I know I've gotten burned by doing the filters before. I don't remember why.
Okay. Do you think there'd be performance differences between filter and the way that you hit it?
Well, the filter, of course, is going to hit the database again. This is just going to do something on the presentation layer.
Gotcha.
So I would assume this would be faster. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Love
Good
it.
question.
Great question.
You can have a bronze star for that one, Charles. You don't know what the bronze stars are, but they're very valuable.
Thank you.
You're on the podium.
Andy, we've got a couple more questions, so I'll fire them at you. Christina was asking, what does the does not equal blank do for show table?
What does that actually do? Okay, yeah, so we could talk through the logic of that. So when I run my action in the dashboard, right? So let me go back to profit. When I click on one of these, it populates my parameter. Okay, who is the question from again? I'm sorry.
From Christina Pettengale. It's a little bit up from the bottom of the chat.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, so Christina, so what's happening here? I'm populating the parameter. When I populate the parameter, I then wanted to also filter that sheet, and I wanted to show that sheet. So the parameter itself has a value in it. When I click off of something, or I click off of the bar, or I click something in that sheet, it then triggers that action to no longer have that a parameter value inside of it. It's kind of set it up. It switches it back to a blank. Okay. So that's the logic of how this works. So they click a bar, it populates the parameter, or populates the parameter with the subcategory they click on. They click off and it sets it to blank. Okay. So the reason I set it up as does not equal blank is because I don't care which of these bars they click on. As long as that parameter has a value, I want to show the table. So it's as long as it does not equal the blank. And hopefully that answers her question.
Yeah, that helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, Is that it,
Okay. No, not quite.
Okay.
Shweta has asked, and I know there's a couple of comments. I just want to make sure it gets resolved. How do you get a title on the pop-up sheet? So the table that pops up. Do you do another sheet with a subcategory selected for the title in a text box, or is there another way?
This sheet.
I believe so. Yes. Is
Well,
there a
you
way to
could
do a
just
title?
That is correct,
yeah.
Andy, for this sheet, because like if the user forgets
Show
what
title.
did they select. Yep. So when you hide it, does it go away? Okay.
It does, but I could go back over here to the table and I could say, details for, and then I could just pass the parameter to it. So now if I click something, it'll say like details for phones.
Perfect. Thank
Nice.
you.
Okay. Did that answer your question? I think you said.
Yes, I did. You did.
Good question.
Excellent. I think that's it. Yeah, I think the rest were more comments on the chat. So yeah, all good. Go ahead.
Okay, great. All right. Whew, thanks for making me take a break, Eva, as well. Otherwise, I would just keep talking and talking and talking. Okay, so we already looked at another example of comparing product performance. This one's really cool. This is by Sujia Wee from the data school. And this is kind of another example of kind of doing a drill down, right? So you're going from one KPI and you're drilling down to the details for that particular KPI. And in this case, all of those drill downs look the same, but they could all be completely different, right? So there's 9 KPIs on there. It could be 9 separate sub-dashboards that pop up. So a lot of us will have a landing page. We've probably built landing pages before that have like, 25, 5x5 grid of KPIs. And then each of those launches another dashboard. You can just have it all in one dashboard and just have them pop up when they click on the KPI. Okay, chart swapping. So we talked about that already. This is a really cool mobile dashboard that I showed on in my newsletter and on LinkedIn the other day. This was really fun to build. Awesome experience on a phone. Especially that company name at the top. That's the best part of the dashboard, I think. And then a scatter plot drill down. Now, I would have these drill downs I always did with calculations before, just one calculation that kind of tracks the level you're at and all that. But if you use dynamic zone visibility, even though they're all just scatter plots, it's significantly simpler to think through the logic that you need. All right, so the biggest question by far was, what's the difference between dynamic zone visibility and those show hide controls? Okay, so both of them control visibility of the elements of a dashboard, right? But so they serve a similar purpose, but they're implemented differently and have distinct use cases. So this is an example of show hide controls, right? I've got these things on here. I click on the hamburger to show my filters, to show my charts, hide my subcategories. Those are all done with buttons. Works perfectly, right? Nothing wrong with that. You're literally just showing and hiding things. However, with dynamic zone visibility, we are doing it based on conditions, right? So a show hide, literally just show hide, does a show and a hide. A dynamic zone visibility uses a condition to determine if something does a show or a hide. That's the most fundamental part of this. So the analogy that I asked ChatGPT to give me a couple of analogies for the difference between show hide buttons and dynamic zone visibility. And it said to think of show hide like a drawer. You're opening and closing a drawer, right? That immediately is, oh, that makes sense. Okay. And dynamic zone visibility, on the other hand, is controlled by calculations or parameters, like the examples that I built there on the fly. Okay. I think we're getting kind of out of time here, and I'll give you these slides, but I think I've probably covered most of this already. These are just more about, when should you use them and that, but you can kind of catch up on the slides there. They're both, I think the show hide button is probably easier. Well, it's definitely easier to implement because you just choose show hide button, where the dynamic zone visibility requires the thinking through the calculations, but I've given you the formula now, those 5 steps that you need to do every time. Okay, so just to recap, collapsible controls is one example, and on the dynamic zone visibility, it's displaying charts. All right, in the chat, this is something I do with every single class. Type in there something you learned while I have a drink. And this is for everybody. I don't know how many people are on, 147. So we should see 146, 145 comments, Eva. We should see in there.
Yes. And while people are typing, there are a couple of questions. If we get to them, I'm happy to read them out, but I know you also probably want to pick out some of the lessons
Go ahead.
learned,
I can
so.
listen while I'm reading the comments at the same time. There we go.
Okay, there is a question from JC Arriaga related to performance dashboard load time. Does Tableau render the visuals and calculations of the hidden objects in advance, or does it happen once the container or object is displayed?
Oh, that is an excellent question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay. Then I'll quickly read out the other one from Ash.
I'm pretty sure a quick Google or ChatGPT would answer that. Sorry, I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
And then Ash asked, have you got an example for dynamic zone visibility using a calculated field, such as fixed level of detail calculation?
You can use any calculated field as long as it's a true false.
Thank you. And now we have, I think we're going to have like 50 messages at least with what people have learned. So
that's okay. You don't have to read them out. I'm just kind of scanning through them and I can look at it. I can't wait to try it. That's great, Laura. Excellent. Hopefully you like the use cases, the step-by-step process. Are you feeling more confident now for how you would actually use them? Hopefully you do. Okay. And this was all done. So I guess, one of the biggest things that I hear from people is, they're kind of really struggling to understand the full power of dynamic zone visibility. So they might, and this is kind of recapping what we talked about, right? So they might get lost in the setup and configuration process. And for me, once I get lost in that process, it's really hard for me to get back out of that without hitting undo an unlimited number of times. You kind of begin to wonder if it's really worth your time, right? That's that trade-off. You're not sure when to use it versus other features like the show hide controls. And then, of course, there's the technical hurdles of dynamic zone visibility. It feels like a lot of steps to get it working properly, right? But I've just showed you it's only 5 steps. You might be second guessing each step and struggling to make it work smoothly, or you're frustrated with kind of the trial and error. Most of you have probably been through trial and error to get it to work right. I'm guessing so. That's probably why you're on here. And then you also might feel like you're stuck or you're kind of unsure of the process. So do you second guess your setup process? Are you 100% confident that you got it right every time? Are you worried that your solution might be inefficient? Right? We've all kind of felt that fear a bit. And do you feel overwhelmed by the technical demands of dynamic zone visibility? Right? So you have to really. This is a deeply technical, analytical, advanced topic in Tableau, right? I've simplified the steps for you, but the capabilities of it are super, super advanced. So ultimately, our dashboards should be clear and purposeful, right? They should guide the users and deliver insights quickly and intuitively. I didn't put the GIF in here. I wish I had. So if you don't know who I am, I'm sure you do because you may have joined here. But what I love to do is I like to help professionals like you make the most of Tableau, make the most of your dashboards, have an impact at your companies, and have an impact on your career. There's a lot of people on the call from Next-Level Tableau that I'm sure would be happy to talk to you about their experiences and the results they've seen so far as well. But with dynamic zone visibility, when the feature first came out, I was like, it felt like it was really, really far over my head. Did anybody else feel like that when they first saw it? Like, I don't get it. I don't see why I would need it. I can't think of a use case for it, right? So hands up or your favorite emoji in the chat or a reaction. I really struggled with getting it set up right. I had those same kind of challenges that we've all probably had at the start. When is it the right choice for my dashboards? Did I do the right steps? Is it the most efficient way to do it? And it took me time to get it right. And my goal is to help you confidently navigate dynamic zone visibility and make it work for your needs. And hopefully you feel a lot better like that now. So who wants to learn how to put this into action? So I've showed you it. I've showed you lots of really cool examples. hands up or reaction if this is something you would like to learn. So Eva wants to learn it. That's pretty easy. I can teach you that. Adrian wants to learn. Ruben says no because he's already learned it. Okay, so he knows everything. So Ruben, you're going to teach it next time. You've just volunteered yourself.
No, no, no. I said no to the. It was difficult. It was difficult the first time. I didn't know because I
Oh,
learned
changing your
in
story
NLT.
now. Changing your story now. I
Yeah,
see.
no,
I see.
no. I was.
I see how it is. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so seems easy enough. Yeah, participating in the Tableau user group gives you lots of examples and use cases. Excellent. Yeah. There's also an analytics tug. I think that people have done presentations with dynamic zone visibility before as well. So it looks like there's a lot of you that probably could use these skills. So what I'm going to do is next week, I don't know why it says webinar. It should say workshop. So let me change that. I'm going to be running a workshop next week on dynamic zone visibility. And I would like to invite you all to come to it. So we're going to implement some of the things that that you saw today, like that mobile dashboard, super cool. And I've got a couple other really cool examples up my sleeve. So hopefully you would like to come along to that. It's going to be next Thursday at 7:30 UK time and 2:30 East Coast, since we're back to 5 hours now. No more confusing 4 hours for the 2 weeks kind of thing. You're going to learn kind of the step-by-step process, right? I'm taking you through it in this webinar, but we're going to learn it hands-on. We're going to look at practical examples you can use immediately, and then actionable techniques to help you streamline your dashboards. You should come out of it with lots of ideas on how you can implement this straight away in your work. So again, Thursday, November 14th at 7:30. So if you're interested, if you could just put a thumbs up in the chat, that would be great, or a reaction, one or the other. So 2 people, 3, 4. Okay, it looks like some people are coming through now. There's 132 people, so if only 5 say they're interested, then maybe I just won't bother. Okay. Okay, so we're getting some more responses there. I recognize all the names though. I knew you all would want to do it. Amanda, I knew you would have your hands up. Cooley, Ojo, I knew you would all have your hands up for this. Excellent. Pete, Guy. Okay, great. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, if you sign up for the workshop, I'm going to give you a free month of Next-Level Tableau. So it's your chance to not only experience the workshop, but also experience Next-Level Tableau for a month. And I think you're going to absolutely love it once you get the chance to be a part of it. So this is what you get with your 1 month membership. We're going to have 12 training classes. We do 3 a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, each for an hour. So that's around a $1,600 value. There are 10 other workshops that are exclusive to NLT members that are in the program as well, that you could binge watch if you want in that month. There's also over 150 on-demand tutorials. We have weekly office hours, right? So we had those earlier today. Those are really great. It's kind of like Tableau Doctor most of the time, sometimes guest speakers, lots and lots of useful information in there. And then we have an incredible Slack community. So the Slack community has been like really, really important to the success of Next-Level Tableau. All right, so with that, total value for 1 month is $4,000. And I'd like to give it to you for $150. So no brainer, right? $150, first month of Next-Level Tableau. You get the live classes, you get the workshops, you get all of the recordings. I forgot about that. You get all the recordings from all the live classes we've done already. That's like 170 hours of live recordings. So Ojo, take yourself off mute. How good do you think somebody would be if they watched all 170 hours in a month?
They can be doing Tableau in their dreams.
They would have to do it in their dreams, I guess, to fill up the time. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Eva, for putting the link in the chat there. So when you go to the website, it has all of the information you need about the webinar, or the workshop, what we're going to cover. All you need to do is click the button at the bottom that goes to the payment page. It immediately takes it changes your the payment to $150. It enrolls you in a Next-Level Tableau subscription. So if after the first month you decide you're done with Next-Level Tableau, no hard feelings, just go ahead and cancel, and that's all you need to do. But it would be great to have you along for a month, have you along for this workshop. And does anybody have any questions? Eva, you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I do, because I think it's Azari just made a really good comment saying my biggest thing is scheduling so that I can actually use the 1 month stuff. So having a month is, in theory, a really good time for a trial, but you want to make the most of it. So what we have put together, and what we can also help through Slack for to help people with, is how you get the most out of your 1 month membership and that time that you have to dedicate to the classes, the learning, the workshop, watching the recordings. And we've put together this blueprint. Oops, sorry.
Stuck it in the chat right now, Eva.
Great, thank you. So there's a little blueprint document that gives you 3 different levels of, let's call it, commitment. If you have just a couple of hours a week, what's the best way to engage? If you have lots of time, because for example, you're in between jobs or you're taking an extended break, whatever it might be, if you say, well, actually, I could work on this 8 hours a day or 10 hours a week, we've got different options that we're proposing that you make the most of it, because I'm working with Andy to help do some of that, so that people maximize the value they get from their membership. So we have thought of that, and that resource is there. So you can look at the PDF so they get an idea of what level of commitment you can make, but also what some of the things are that you would then engage with. And I hope you find that useful, whether you use it for NLT or for other things as well, because it includes community projects, etc.
And I've got it up on the screen here, Eva, as well. So, and this is kind of in the recommended order of doing things. So the number one thing you can do to take advantage of Next-Level Tableau is come to the live classes or watch the recordings. If you can't do anything else, that is what you should focus on. After that, it's of course practicing. That's incredibly important. And then getting yourself involved with the community. That will give you way more than enough to do. So I've been teaching Tableau for a very, very long time. And this is the first time I've been able to take all of the content I've learned over the years and not only make it a lot deeper, I'm making it a lot broader as well. So it's the most comprehensive training you could possibly get in Tableau. And I'm giving it to you for $150 for the first month.